28% of Americans under 30 report having no close friends. That's nearly 1 in 3 young adults, and it's doubled since 2020. Probably no coincidence why the world has forgotten how to connect with each other. But here's what's really interesting. It's not because we don't want friends. Survey after survey shows that young adults desperately want meaningful connections. So what's going wrong? Let's look at 3 specific factors that recent research has identified as the primary reasons behind why making friends in your 20s has become so incredibly difficult. Let's start with what psychologist Barry Schwartz calls choice overload, and how it's absolutely destroying our ability to form friendships. Think about this. You live in a city with millions of people. Your phone contains apps that can connect you to thousands of potential friends. There are hundreds of events happening every weekend. Meetup groups, hobby clubs, networking events, fitness classes. The options are literally endless. This sounds like a good thing, right? More options should mean better friendships. But here's what actually happens. When you have infinite choices, every single choice feels wrong, and everything just feels like too much effort. You're at a coffee shop and there's someone reading a book you love. In theory, you could strike up a conversation, but your brain immediately starts calculating, what if they don't want to talk? What if this conversation is awkward? What if there's someone more interesting at that book club I saw on Facebook? What if I'm missing out on a better opportunity? To put it simply, FOMO, the fear of missing out, has only increased exponentially over time the more people show off how good their life is on social media, and so no one wants to have a dull moment anymore. Dr. Eli Finkel's 2024 research on relationship marketplace thinking found that 54% of young adults now evaluate potential friendships by comparing them to other social options rather than judging the relationship on its own merits. We've applied dating app logic to friendship. There's always someone potentially better just a swipe away. Here's a concrete example of how this plays out. You meet someone at a party, you have a good conversation, exchange numbers, and they text you about grabbing coffee. Instead of just saying yes, you start thinking, but I also have that hiking group on Saturday, and Sarah mentioned wanting to hang out, and there's that new art class I could try. You end up not responding because you're paralyzed by FOMO. The result? You end up choosing nothing. You stay home, scroll through Instagram, and watch everyone else seemingly having the social life you want. Previous generations had maybe 20, 30 people in their entire social orbit. If you met someone compatible, you invested in that relationship because options were limited. We have access to thousands of people, which makes us treat each potential friendship as disposable. It's like being in a massive buffet where you're so overwhelmed by choices that you end up starving and eating nothing because you spend so much time making a decision. The abundance that was supposed to make friendship easier has actually made commitment to any single friendship, and letting it develop feels impossible. The second major factor is what researchers are calling friendship perfectionism. We've created impossibly high standards for what friendship should look like, and it's killing our ability to accept normal human relationships. This comes from 2 places: therapy culture and social media. Let's start with therapy culture. Mental health awareness is obviously important, but we've taken clinical terminology and applied it to everyday relationship friction. Terms like toxic, red flags, boundaries, and narcissistic are now used to describe behavior that used to just be called having a bad day or being human. Psychologist Nick Haslam's research on concept creep shows that 67% of young adults have ended friendships using psychological terminology to justify the decision. But here's the key finding: only 23% could actually describe harmful behavior when pressed for specifics. What does this look like in practice? Your friend cancels plans last minute because they're overwhelmed at work. Instead of thinking, that sucks, but I get it, you find yourself wondering, is this a pattern? Are they not prioritizing our friendship? Is this a red flag about their character? Or maybe your friend makes a joke that rubs you the wrong way. Instead of addressing it directly or letting it slide, you start analyzing, was that toxic? Do they not respect my boundaries? Should I be in a friendship where I have to educate someone? We've pathologized normal relationship maintenance. Every friendship requires patience, forgiveness, and working through misunderstandings. But we've been trained to optimize everything, including our relationships. We approach potential friends like we're conducting job interviews instead of just hanging out and seeing what develops naturally. The social media aspect makes this even worse. Instagram and TikTok have created what researchers call aesthetic friendship pressure. We see curated friend groups having seemingly perfect experiences, always laughing, always doing exciting things, always in sync with each other. This creates unrealistic expectations. You have coffee with someone and it's nice, but not Instagram worthy. You hang out and enjoy yourself, but nobody takes photos. Your brain starts questioning, is this even a real friendship if we're not having those magical moments I see online? Here's a specific example that will probably sound familiar. You're getting to know someone and they're perfectly pleasant, but they're not witty in text messages. They don't make you laugh out loud. They don't have interesting stories every time you talk. Compared to the dynamic, hilarious friendships you see on social media, this person seems boring. But here's what we've forgotten. Real friendship isn't a performance. It's not about having the most interesting conversations or the most exciting adventures. It's about showing up consistently, caring about each other's regular problems, and being comfortable with ordinary moments together. UCLA's 2023 study on friendship satisfaction found that people who reported the highest levels of friendship satisfaction spent the most time in what researchers called low-stimulation activities with friends, just watching TV, running errands together, or having routine conversations. The friendships that felt most meaningful were built on mundane consistency, not peak experiences. We've created a culture where friendship has to be constantly engaging, always growing, and never disappointing. No human relationship can meet these standards. The third factor is perhaps the most straightforward, but also the most damaging. We've made staying on our phones so comfortable and socially stimulating that the effort required to talk to actual strangers feels overwhelming and unnecessary. Here's the reality. We're spending an average of 4.2 hours per day on social media platforms. Our brains are getting constant social stimulation without any of the awkwardness, rejection, or effort that comes with real-world interaction. MIT's Sherry Turkle describes this as digital social comfort. We're getting just enough social satisfaction from our devices that we don't feel motivated to push through the discomfort of meeting new people. Think about what it actually takes to make a friend in real life. You have to notice someone, work up the courage to start a conversation, risk awkwardness, exchange contact information, follow up, suggest hanging out, coordinate schedules, show up, and maintain conversation for hours. That's a lot of emotional labor and potential rejection. Compare that to scrolling through TikTok, where you get a constant stream of people being funny, relatable, and entertaining. You can comment, they might respond, and you feel like you've had a social interaction. No risk, no effort, no rejection. Here's a concrete example. You're at a coffee shop, and you notice someone wearing a shirt from a band you love. 5 years ago, you might have said, "Hey, I love that band." Now, you think about it, feel a flutter of social anxiety, and instead pull out your phone and scroll through Instagram. Within minutes, you're watching videos and reading comments, and your brain feels socially satisfied. The moment passes, or you're at the gym, and someone asks to work in on the equipment you're using. Instead of making small talk, you both glance at your phones instead and listen to music. The point is, all this has become normalized and prevents any level of natural socialization to happen. This creates what researchers call social muscle atrophy. Just like physical muscles, social skills weaken when you don't use them. We're out of practice with the basic mechanics of small talk, reading social cues in person, and managing the low-level anxiety that comes with meeting new people. No one wants to look stupid and make a mistake. The most telling statistic comes from a 2023 study by the University of Chicago. When asked to approach a stranger and start a conversation, 73% of participants predicted it would be more awkward and less enjoyable than it actually was. We've become so afraid of real-world social interaction that we massively overestimate how difficult it will be. But here's the crucial part. The study also found that people who regularly put their phones away in social situations, like waiting in line, sitting in cafes, or commuting, were significantly more likely to have spontaneous conversations and report feeling more connected to their community. We've created a world where the path of least resistance leads to isolation. Your phone offers instant, risk-free social gratification, and you'll never feel weird in the moment when you're out in public. But instead, you'll never address the nagging feeling of emptiness that can only be fulfilled with real friends. Real friendship requires sustained effort, vulnerability, and the possibility of rejection. When you can get social satisfaction without social risk, why would you choose the harder path? The result is that we're all sitting in the same coffee shops, gyms, and public spaces, all looking at our phones, all feeling lonely, all missing opportunities to connect with people who are probably just as lonely as we are. So we've figured out that choice overload makes us unable to commit to any single friendship opportunity. Perfectionist standards make us reject normal human relationships, and digital comfort makes us avoid the effort required for real-world connection. So what's the solution? Understanding what you're up against is the first step to making different choices. Once you recognize these patterns, you can start making small changes that work against them. It takes longer than a single video to make these changes, but the best solution is to expose yourself to unfamiliar environments where you are forced outside of your comfort zone until it becomes the new normal, and try to break the old habits that aren't helping you, such as endless scrolling, as much as you can, so that you allow your brain to seek real connections instead.